About imperfect competition or oligopoly, and I'm going to try to cover quite a bit of ground. So we're going to start with static oligopoly solution concepts like Cournot, Bertrand, etc., and talk about differentiated products, and then we'll turn to Stigler's theory of collusive oligopoly, including what a cartel is, incentives for and deterrents to collusion, factors facilitating or hampering collusion. Then we'll talk about conjectural variations as a way of summarizing the degree of collusion, and then turn to incidence in oligopoly, and use the conduct parameter as a way of summing up everything that we've been talking about in different theories of oligopoly, and then relate the incidence under oligopoly to that under monopoly and perfect competition, and finally go to thinking about asymmetric oligopoly and how it actually might be beneficial for an industry to become more collusive. Okay, so the most basic oligopoly model is that of Cournot. So in the Cournot model, the demand, the price is modeled as a function of quantity, the total industry quantity, and individual firms have a cost function which depends on their quantity, and a marginal cost, which is the derivative of that total cost. Each firm takes the other firm's quantities as given, and therefore sets their markup, which is the price in the industry as a whole minus their individual marginal cost, equal to their quantity times the derivative of the industry price with respect to quantity, right? So the markup over cost is because of the inframarginal quantity Qi that they charge. And that means that as each firm becomes a small part of the industry, the markup has to become small, right? So that's going to be, in the next class on Thursday, how we're going to think about competition reducing prices. Okay. But a natural reaction is, why should we take the other firm's quantity as given when I, as an individual firm, choose my quantity? And this debate over what I should take as given led to a long and quite complicated debate over solution concepts for oligopoly. And I want to start by giving you a flavor of what this debate was like by talking about some of these different models. But a lot of this can get very Byzantine and confusing. And in the end, I'm going to argue that for a lot of policy questions we're interested in, these details of solution concepts don't matter that much. There's some summary statistics which capture everything that we're interested in. And those will basically tell us how much do firms behave like a monopoly or like perfect competitors, and that is going to be more important than exactly how we arrive at that conclusion. So in some sense, I think you can view most of the first part of the lecture as being different ways of trying to sort of like micro-found or feed into some basic summary statistics that we'll take out of the end of the lecture and that you'll have to apply in your problem sets. Okay. So to try to give you a bit of a flavor of the debate, though, let's go back through the history. So Bertrand and Edgeworth said, well, it seems more plausible that firms would take other firms' prices rather than their quantities as given. And if they take other firms' prices as given, the problem is that their demand becomes discontinuous, right? If I charge a bit below the other firm's price, then I get all of the demand. If I charge a bit above, I get no demand, right? So if every firm has a known common cost, right, then you can never have an equilibrium when firms have positive markups. Because one firm will just slightly undercut the other firm's markup and get all the demand at that positive markup, which will make them clearly better off than if they were to charge the same price, right? And so as long as there's more than just one firm, the only equilibrium is that price is equal to cost, right? So this is called the Bertrand-Edgeworth paradox, or the Bertrand-Edgeworth critique, right? And it implies that two firms are enough to make a market perfectly competitive, which is something that a lot of people find absurd, right? A lot of people argued that it seems implausible that a firm reducing its price by a very small amount would cause a discontinuous increase in its demand. And Mohammed, what are some of the solutions that people offered to try to resolve this paradox? Anyone else have ideas? Yeah, Jim?
Well, there's either unobserved differentiation in the firm's cost structure, or like IO models always use like their search costs. People aren't, the two bits aren't perfectly identical, so there's some cost either for one sort of another.
Yeah, so if firms differ in their cost and their cost is not known, then an individual firm might not really get a discontinuous increase in its quantity by reducing its price by a small amount, because it doesn't know what price the other firm is going to be charging. Perhaps more interesting is the notion that firms' products are not exactly the same. As Jim was saying, that they might be differentiated in some way. That some people might inherently value one firm over the other because they're closer to the other firm, because they know more about it, because they like its product better. Another possibility is that firms collude and that they don't take the other firm's prices as given as a result, because they know that by changing their price, they'll affect what the other firm is going to do, because it affects the collusive agreement that they have, right? Now, probably the most popular response, the one that's most commonly used, as Jim was saying, in practice in the IO literature, is the notion that there's product differentiation. That is, if one firm increases its price, its demand will fall continuously, but not discontinuously, because they'll just sort of smoothly move along the set of consumers in terms of how much preference they have for one good over the other, right? So in this model, consumers view products as being differentiated by their non-price characteristics in ways that we were talking about last week, right? Another model is that consumers view the products as identical, but they have to search for the product that has the lowest price or the greatest value to them, right? So in this case, prices are not transparent. It might be costly to go to a store or to figure out what the price of some set of stores are. This can be viewed as sort of creating some differentiation in the products as well, right? So either way, the quantity that the firm chooses is going to be a function of its own price, but also of the prices that the other firms are charging, but a continuous one, so that there's not going to be any of these Bertrand-style discontinuities. So each monopolist, each firm basically acts as a monopolist on its own product, taking as given the prices of the other substitute firm's products. And the other firm's products are substitutes in the sense that the quantity of each individual firm depends positively on the price of the other firm. If the other firm charges a higher price, this firm will sell a greater quantity, right? So this differentiated model could take other firms' quantities as strategies rather than prices as strategies, right? So we wouldn't have to make the Bertrand assumption that everyone takes the other people's prices as given. They could actually take other people's quantities as given. But in practice, this Nash and prices or Bertrand assumption with differentiation has become the central model that people use in the IO literature, and so it's what I'll focus on for a lot of today. So this model is called differentiated products, Nash and prices, which I abbreviate by DPNIP. Okay. So the same basic principles hold in this case as in the monopoly case. So we can define a notion of the residual demand elasticity that a firm faces. And that's the elasticity of demand for the product holding fixed the prices of the other products. And Mohammed, what's that? What's the how would you express that mathematically, the elasticity of demand holding fixed the prices of the other products? Oh, I know you can do this. Come on. It's the elasticity of my demand with respect to my price holding fixed the prices of other firms' products. Anyone else want to try?
Just the usual elasticity, right? Like the partial derivative.
It's the partial derivative, right? Rather than the total derivative of the, right? Yeah, so that's the key point. So it's the partial of the quantity with respect to price multiplied by price and divided by my quantity, right? And so if we define this new notion of elasticity, or this refined notion of elasticity, then firms' pricing still just follows the Lerner rule, where the elasticity is just this residual demand elasticity. By residual, I mean holding fixed the prices of the other firms, right? So there's nothing particularly special in the analysis I did here about holding other firms' prices fixed. However, whatever I take as given for other firms, I can define an elasticity, which is how my quantity changes when I change my price, holding fixed whatever I hold fixed from other firms. And then I'll price according to the Lerner rule under whatever that elasticity is, right? Okay. So oligopolists create pecuniary externalities on each other in many cases. Why is that true, Mohammed?
So by changing the
So let's say in the Cournot model, in what sense do firms create pecuniary externalities on each other?
so they change each other's price.
Yeah.
Like they change each other's profit, right?
And in what direction does that go? If I increase my quantity, what's the
Price falls.
yeah? So that's a negative pecuniary externality on other firms, right? Now we know that pecuniary externalities shouldn't be internalized, right? Okay, so Neil, why under Cournot is the externality purely pecuniary?
Can you read the definition of pecuniary?
Yeah, pecuniary externality is one that's filtered only through the prices.
Oh, okay. Because this is like by definition, like the idea is we're increasing quantity, so price is falling, and that's like the price system is directly affecting that externality.
Yep, but in Cournot, in what sense is that the only effect that I have on other firms?
We're assuming we're not looking at quantities?
Because they're taking the other firm's quantities as given, right? That's the definition of the Cournot equilibrium, right? Is every firm takes its other, so it thinks that it's only creating pecuniary externalities on other firms, right? On the other hand, the externalities that each firm causes on other firms are purely real under differentiated product Nash and prices. Kentaro, why is that the case?
So, because basically if you change the quantity, so pecuniary is through price, right?
Yeah?
And so real means through quantity.
Yeah.
Okay. Then then suppose you